We are back with another installment of Ask Eddie and Ann.
Hello.
Ann, how are you doing, Ann?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, good,
Doing
good.
well. Getting very excited about the TCM festival. Things have been tough, but I just keep telling myself LA, LA, LA.
Okay, good. Well, I can't seem to get out of LA these days because we are recording this. I'm home now, but we are recording this during the Noir City Festival that is happening in Hollywood at the Egyptian Theater. I do the weekends. I bounce back home because I got to get some work done, and Alan Rohde takes over the hosting duties from Monday to Thursday, and then I'll be back on. But all of that is a moot point because this will be airing after that is over. But it was great to be back at the Egyptian Theater. Cat, oh, explicit cat butt. That may have to be censored on the video. Anyway, I was happy to see my first time in the Egyptian since the remodel and the refurbishment of the place, and it's great. At times it was really weird because I was standing up there on stage. There wasn't even a stage before. Now there's actually a stage, and I was talking about the fact that this was our 25th year in the venue, but it was really odd because it didn't really look like the venue anymore. There was no balcony, and the seats were all different. The carpeting's all different. The slope of the floor is everything about it is different. Uh, but you step outside on a Hollywood Boulevard and you go, "Oh yeah, this is the same place." But it was great. So I hope you get to see um, stuff at the Egyptian when you're there for the TCM festival.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm hoping they'll be doing nitrate screenings again this year. So
Um,
fingers crossed.
I believe they are. I'm not exactly certain what it is. I mean, we're just starting to get our marching orders right now. Who is that? Is that Charlotte?
Charlotte. Yes,
Nice,
the other
Charlotte.
day I finally had time to write. So I was sitting down to write and she knocked over this huge tumbler of water over everything. So now one of my monitors is not working
Nice work.
properly. Yeah.
Nice work. Yeah, I've had cat related computer problems. Oh, she's just took her leave. She's just, oh, with a little tail flip as she walked away. That's like a FU as she walks out the door. Very nice. Yeah, I'm glad you were writing. Like,
Yeah, yeah, because I've been writing kind of regularly, and then I was sick, so I've just been like coming home and collapsing. So I was really excited because like finally I feel well enough to get some writing done, and then it was like so. Then when I went to see my friend Brendan the next morning because I've been stopping by his before I go into work, like I had a complete fucking meltdown. Like it was one too many things that week. Just lost.
okay.
I'm better
Well,
now.
good, good. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, everything's been going. I have been so busy, but also doing a lot of writing as well because I have the manuscript due for um, the well, it's not really that revised, but Running Press is republishing Dark City Dames in 2025, and I'm making a few little tweaks to the manuscript because it's now 20 years later. So obviously there's going to be an afterword where I talk about stuff with the actresses that I didn't mention in the first volume, and then I'm writing 10 or so additional profiles of actresses, film noir related actresses, and boy, it's been great getting back to just writing, and I'm very pleased with how it's going, but I don't have enough time. That's the only problem. I just don't have time. But we have time for this, so let's get to it. Let's get to it. I haven't really. These questions came through kind of late.
Because I did not
So
attach the file when I first emailed you.
yes, so I'm kind of and you're soft. Why are you getting
Oh
soft?
no, 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 no. Let's see. Let's see if we can. I might have gotten too close to the camera. Now it has to readjust. Oh, please. See if we can get
Is it
just.
the diffusion on the lens? Are you doing like the Greta
Nope.
Garbo? There you go.
There.
You're good. You're
Back to
back.
normal.
You're back.
Okay.
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 So let's just dive in.
And this is from James. Did either of you watch the recent FX series Feud, Capote versus the Swans? Not noir, but it brings me to ask about the neo-noir in Cold Blood, adapted from Capote's famous book. It did not portray the author except to have a reporter narrate and play it straight. Doesn't seem like Hollywood wanted to depict the actual Capote with until much later because he was a gay man. Funny because the film's director, Richard Brooks, wrote The Brook Foxhole, where the victim is homosexual. The film adaptation Crossfire changed it to an anti-Semitic hate crime. And we have the TV remake of Laura in 1968. Have you ever seen this version, Eddie? Capote wrote a new screenplay for the 68 version of Laura. The critics hated it, and I don't know if a print exists for public showing. But had they cast Capote as Waldo, that would have been great. He was Waldo.
Okay, James. Okay, a lot of stuff to unpack here.
Yeah.
I'll start at the beginning. Yes, I did watch Capote versus the Swans. Did you see it, Anne?
No, I don't watch stuff about rich people.
Okay, fair enough. And I enjoyed it to a point. I thought the acting was all phenomenal. I just thought it was like many streaming shows these days. I think it was just too long. It went on way too long and just kept repeating stuff. I I know a bit about Capote's life story, and I was willing to cut this one some slack. I don't normally go for the Ryan Murphy shows because he plays so fast and loose with the truth. But that was kind of what this show was about, like adapting reality to fiction. And then when people get upset about it, that's what the show was about, right? Did he betray his friends? And did they deserve it? Or all that stuff. So I thought Tom Hollander was tremendous as Capote, absolutely great. And it was really great seeing Diane Lane as Slim Keith, and Naomi Watts was fantastic as Babe Paley. And everybody was good. Everybody was good in the show. The thing about In Cold Blood, which I may be introducing at the TCM festival, it I don't know how to get into all of this, but the assumption that Capote was left out of the movie version is kind of weird because it's based on the book, and he wrote the book, but he's not in the book, right? So they put in that Paul Stewart character to be sort of the objective viewpoint in the movie. But Richard Brooks and Truman Capote were really good friends. So I mean that was kind of interesting. So the idea that Hollywood left him out because he was gay is not really accurate in this case, because it was never intended for him to be a character in the film anyway. And now, of course, I can't think of another book and author that has been adapted to film quite as much as Truman Capote. I mean, it's amazing. They've done two versions of the making of In Cold Blood and the story of his getting involved with the killers and all that stuff. But I can't remember what issue it was, but a couple of years ago, I think the Noir City magazine did a piece, and I'm telling you, my brain is so screwed up. I can't even remember what it was about, but I remember that this was discussed in detail. Richard Brooks's very, very good and positive relationship with Truman Capote, and Brooks was kind of known as a man's man who really got along well with gay guys. And so that's barking up the wrong tree, thinking that there was something about homophobia or something keeping Capote out of the thing. And as for the TV remake of Laura, I've seen part of it, and it's really not very good. Even though, and of course, what was interesting about that is that one of the Swans played Laura. Lee Radziwill played Laura in the movie. It was her one big movie role, and Capote kind of wrote it for her. It was funny. I was kind of curious to see if that was going to make it into the show, as part of the thing. It did not. I learned about it from Farley Granger because Farley played Shelby Carpenter. He played the Vincent Price role from the original in this remake, and George Sanders played Waldo. So I know that in many ways, James is right that Capote sort of is a very much a Waldo character, but it's hard to think of two better actors to play Waldo than Clifton Webb and George Sanders.
Yeah.
I just don't think you can do better than those two. Anyway, that yeah, I don't. That's one of those things where, like, yeah, if you could find it, it's interesting as a historical artifact, but it's really why watch it when you can watch the original?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that really true? You don't watch shows about rich people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People are always trying to get me to watch this and that. And it's like, I don't like stuff about rich people. Yeah.
What if it's about rich people getting their comeuppance? Like that entire series, that popular series now, White Lotus, is just about classism and rich people getting what they deserve when they go on vacation and lord it over the locals and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it's just not interesting to me. It's really funny, though. I do say, for people that enjoyed White Lotus, go to YouTube and type in Saturday Night Live Black Lotus, because that is hilarious.
Okay, I haven't seen that. I will watch that. Did you watch the horror movie thing with I'm going to remember the title, that was rich people going to the exotic restaurant and then it turns into
I loved the menu.
The menu.
Yeah, I saw that in the theater. Yeah.
See, rich people. Rich people getting their comeuppance. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, it's just one of those things where I've never really been that into it, because I just feel like I don't have a lot of sympathy for people with money. And especially when they're like, oh, I'm so traumatized and this and that. And it's like, you can afford therapy and your medication. And certainly living in a poor neighborhood has ingrained that even more into me.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I apologize, because I know that you saw the menu because you were the one who raved about Judith Light.
Yes,
and her performance in that film. Yeah, she was really terrific in that movie. I'm not sure what I thought about the movie as a whole, but I didn't mind watching it. I had a good time watching it. Anyway, okay, we're on to number 2. This is a question from William. He starts off by saying he sent this question to us back in December, but to the wrong email address. So he's trying again. Anyway, he said, I was pleased to see that the Film Noir Foundation sponsored the Library of America live discussion, I'm Dreaming of a Noir Christmas, classic crime thrillers of the 1960s. Did we do that? Did we sponsor that?
Well,
I think we spread the word about it on social media. We spread the word.
We promoted it heavily for them.
Yeah, but I mean, that we did not sponsor that necessarily, and I don't want to say that we wouldn't do something like that, but we didn't, and I don't want to take any thunder away from whoever actually did sponsor it. I am very much enjoying these twisted novels of 1960s alienation. We can see how film noir movies of the classic period were influenced by the novels of Hammett, Chandler, Cain, and others. My question is, which writers have been most influenced by classic film noir movies? That's kind of tough to determine. It's so. I do think that the first wave that you mentioned, William, Hammett and Chandler and Cain and W.R. Burnett and Cornell Woolrich and some of these other guys, they certainly were influential on the classic movies. Then I think the next wave of writers were clearly influenced by films. You know,
Yeah.
the Lionel White. Lionel White is one I would cite just because he was very trend setting in the sense that he didn't play with linear narratives. You know, I mean, he wrote the book that The Killing is based on, and the book is structured in that unique way where it keeps backtracking in time. And you know, I think it's pretty evident that Jim Thompson was watched his fair share of movies, and he had a much more cinematic style of writing than somebody say like Burnett or something. But which I don't even know what that means exactly, other than this the books seem more camera ready than in terms of the writing style. They read more like a screenplay sometimes than a novel. Um, I don't know. I know there's a bunch of writers that I'm very familiar with who have written crime fiction books that are clearly about the movies. You
Hmm.
know, there's Lauren Esselman is a writer who actually writes a series of books about a film detective named Valentino uh, that I think Lauren based on me, to be quite honest about it, because I met him 20 odd years ago, 25 years ago, when I was much more deeply ingrained in the crime fiction community, and we kind of talked about this idea, and I never got around to doing it, and Lauren I think has eight books now in the series about a guy who solves crimes that are all film related. And even before he got around to doing that, he he would write crime novels where you could clearly see the influence. I think he has a detective in Detroit named I think his name is Amos Walker, and I think he had a book called Sinister Heights that I think was clearly inspired by Out of the Past.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're out there. I should think about this and compile a list of like crime fiction novels that are clearly based on the movies. But there's a few of them
Yeah.
out there, definitely.
Okay, and this is from Eric. I remember something from my first viewing of His Kind of Woman that simply didn't unfold when I watched it this time. Did I dream that Vincent Price rides to the rescue aboard a bulldozer? Was that bizarre, bizarre cavalry attack from a different noir pastiche? I remember that I remember being thrown for a similar loop rewatching Ocean's 11. I seem to recall them escaping with the dollars aboard a plane, the loot escaping out of the rear loading hatch, not being burnt up in a crematorium. The dollars blowing away in the wind, of course, is from The Killing, but it occurs on the ground. Is there another crime film where the loot is blown out of a plane?
I'm still back on Vincent Price riding to the rescue on a bulldozer. I mean, that's so funny. I mean, it's a boat,
It's a boat.
obviously, and
Yeah.
I can't believe that the most memorable shot in His Kind of Woman
Yeah.
is the boat sinking down as they approach, you know,
Yeah.
as he's leading the rescue of the thing, the boat slowly sinks, you know. Um, so yeah, that's so weird. Like they were on a boat, man. How did you confuse it with a bulldozer? It's kind of funny, the bulldozer on the water. Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen Vincent Price on a bulldozer. And I've seen a lot of Vincent Price movies. So
Those two things don't really fit together too well. Now I got to tell you, I I haven't seen either Ocean's 11. It's that you
I
know,
haven't I
so
haven't either.
so I don't know. I don't know how the money, whether it's a crematorium or out of an airplane. I don't believe I have seen. Um, I don't think I've seen a film in which the money at the end blows out of an airplane. I don't think I've seen that one. Uh, that's the kind of thing where I don't know if that's even viable in a film because dramatically, if the door opens on an airplane and money flies out, that's the least of your problems.
Right.
Because people are going to start flying out of there. And it's like, that's what's so, you know, I mean, the futility of watching Sterling Hayden just watch the money blow away and he can't do anything about it while he's just standing there that's a great ending. And an airplane, it's like Goldfinger. Goldfinger, right? The hatch blows open at the end, and sorry if people haven't seen Goldfinger, and that's how Goldfinger goes, right? He gets sucked out of the plane, uh, but that's a dude. That's not money. That's a guy. So I'm not exactly sure. And of course, the pursuit of DB Cooper, he
Yeah.
goes out with the money. He has the money.
Yeah.
So that's all I can make out of that one. So that was funny. Okay, Jay, just plain old Jay, was just wondering what was the first noir you remember seeing, and did you watch it realizing it was a noir? And he adds that mine was Mildred Pierce at approximately age 10, circa 1970, and I didn't hear the term film noir until at least 10 years later. Well, Jay, that's not dissimilar to my experience. Because that puts us makes you're 63 years old, Jay. Um, I it's interesting. I'm going to level with you. I honestly can't remember the first film noir that I saw, and it was not. I did not know it was film noir until I started buying film books, and then realized, oh, that's what these things are called. And I watched a bunch of them. Which one was the first? I don't know. But later on, when I started writing about film noir, I realized that this question gets asked a lot. So I had to come up with an answer that made sense. And the sensible answer for me was Thieves Highway, because it was set in San Francisco, my hometown, and I could leverage that by saying I was so intrigued by seeing the city that I knew was San Francisco, but I didn't recognize it because the place where it was shot was now gone. By the 1970s, early 1970s, that whole produce area down on the waterfront where Dassin shot the movie, that was all gone. It became the Golden Gateway Center, and it was hard to believe there were like trains coming in there and all the stuff you see in Thieves Highway. So it was a good talking point. So it made sense to say, yeah, Thieves Highway was the first one I saw. But quite honestly, it could have been The Big Heat, but I wouldn't have gotten as much to talk about saying The Big Heat, right? Because it had no extra baggage with it that made it connect to my life the way Thieves Highway connected to me. So anyway, that was it. What was yours, Ann?
I'm not really sure, because the first kind of noir related thing I saw was The Thin Man, which made a huge impression on me. And I kind of wound up, I read The Maltese Falcon before I ever saw the movie. And I also wound up reading some James and Cain when I was younger, but it was before I had seen the movies. So it was kind of weird because some of that stuff I actually read some of the stories before I actually saw the movie. So I'm not really sure what my first film noir actually was.
Yeah. And I certainly did not call them film noir or know that's what they were. I mean, I just connected to these movies. I've said many times, if it had City Street Night big in the title, all of those things. Big City Street at Night was like, that's the movie I want to watch.
Yeah.
And then later on, it was just it's interesting that you read The Maltese Falcon before seeing the movie, because I guess so did I, right? But I didn't read the book until much later, until later in my teens, 15 or 16 years old, I guess. I read the book. That's when I started reading Chandler and Hammett and Cain and all that stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, I guess I started reading. I think I started reading Cain probably about 8th grade, and then freshman year like when we went over to England, because I had the beautiful penguin paperback editions from the 80s of, and I read the Thin Man first because I had really liked the movie, and then I wanted to pursue, so I wound up reading like the Maltese Falcon, and like I said, I kind of read stuff before I saw the movies because, when I was in high school, like we didn't have a VCR or anything, so I just kind of, I mean, I got to see a lot of cool stuff because the BBC would run like little film series.
Mm-hmm.
So like they did a bunch of silent films. So I saw a bunch of like silent films, and that's when Brownlow's documentary ran on the BBC as well. And then like they did like a season of like Coppola films and Martin Scorsese films. So it was just really cool. So I got to see a lot of really cool movies just being in England because they used to
Wow.
do film
Well,
propaganda like that. Cool.
obviously you are younger, much younger than me. So it's a little different experience. I think that when in the early 70s, and I'm going to say 74 was like a crucial year for me. And um, that was sort of like when crime fiction and detective fiction, everything made a big comeback, and they Ballantine republished the Raymond Chandler novels, and I think it was Knopf published all the Hammett stuff again, and then the Cain things, and then Chinatown came out, and then then there was Chinatown and Farewell My Lovely and The Long Goodbye, which pissed everybody off, and it was interesting. I think that's where people really of my generation, of my age, that was the time that we really got back into all of that stuff. And now I'll give a quick shout out to the upcoming issue of the Noir City magazine, which people can get through a donation of $20 or more. They can get it in a digital form or the print edition, which we finally got that all solved. Our print editions of the last issue was delayed due to some screw up at Amazon that has been finally solved. And so now that issue is available in print. But the next issue is all about Los Angeles. And so obviously Raymond Chandler plays a role in that, as does the influence of Chinatown and all kinds of other stuff that is really, really good issue. So if people are into LA noir, and I have to confess, it has a little bit more of a slant towards newer noir in LA than the classic stuff because that was so done. But so much of the classic noir set in LA, except for like Crisscross, are shot in a studio and don't really exploit Los Angeles. Like I would not consider The Big Sleep to be a great Los Angeles movie because it's all shot in the studio at Warner Brothers, but we talk about movies that actually use LA as a very noir place. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, and so if people want to donate to the Film Noir Foundation, you go to filmnoirfoundation.org. And just so people know, you sign up on our email list, and then you donate the $20 or more, and then we send you the digital edition of the magazine. Basically, when it comes out, we send you a link and you download it. And then usually several weeks after that, then the print edition will be up on Amazon. But we only get like $1 an issue for the print edition, so you should subscribe to the digital edition and buy the print edition.
Yes, I know. We're trying to figure something out. I know I've been saying that ever since we started doing the print editions. We've been trying to figure out, like, there's got to be a way that we can actually get a little bigger taste of this. But I'm not going to complain about the job that Amazon does producing those magazines on demand. They look fantastic. The quality is just great. The reproductions are fabulous. The paper is tremendous. So it's worth every penny. It's just that we don't get many of those pennies. So anyway, I think it's your turn.
Okay, let's see here.
Number 5.
Have you ever seen The Unlighted Road starring James Dean? It aired in 1955 on an anthology TV series, Schlitz Playhouse of Stars, and it's a total noir. No noir or not debate on this one. I personally love this 30-minute little thriller. Can you think of any other one-off anthology series episodes from that era that are rare gems of noirs? Oh, yeah. There's a lot.
Yes, there's a lot. And I have seen that show that you're referring to, the Unlighted Road. I have seen that, and it is really interesting seeing like a James Dean role that early. It appeared to me that it was done live, and boy, has like no production values at all. Super simple, good story, super simple. It's like two sets, I think, but it's good. I think you can find it on YouTube or something. I'm not sure, but I don't know where I saw it. But it was like in the past year is when I finally saw it. Yes, there's a lot of. I'm going. I have it around here somewhere. I can't reach it. I have a book called TV Noir.
Yeah.
That is excellent for talking all about. There's a lot of series in there like Naked City and Johnny Staccato and The Fugitive and all that stuff that's clearly noir. Um, but I have seen many. I may have been a Schlitz Playhouse of the Stars. There's one I remember with Ann Savage and Cesar Romero where they're a dance team like breaking down in some podunk town or something. That was pretty exciting. There's a great one. I can't remember what the show was. That's the problem. But there's a great one with Ralph Meeker and Neville Brand. It's a 30-minute show, and they're treasure hunters going after to trying to scavenge a sunken ship, and they're in a rowboat, and you can only imagine how fabulous that is. Ralph Meeker and Neville Brand trapped in a rowboat, and they're both a little psycho. That's pretty great. There's Jacques Tourneur actually directed a TV version of Thieves Highway starring Richard Conte and Elizabeth Scott. That's out there somewhere. I mean, a 30-minute version of Thieves Highway. There's all kinds of stuff like that. There's a lot of it. But check out the TV noir thing. Or another thing to do is just go to IMDb or something and look up your like a favorite noir director and look through their credits, and you will find television shows. Like I'm talking about, like Nick Ray directed television, Tourneur directed television. Obviously, most of those 50s guys, Blake Edwards directed all kinds of television stuff.
Ida Lupino.
Ida Lupino directed a lot of television. All that Alfred Hitchcock presents stuff is pretty darn noir, if you ask me.
Yeah, and there's an episode of the Barbara Stanwyck show with Dan Duryea. So it was like the only and Joan Blondell like are the two guest stars in that episode. It's in that Barbara Stanwyck show. Each one was a different story.
Right.
And then there's also like Four Star Playhouse did a lot of really very noirish stuff on that as well. And then also the movie with Robert Ryan and Ida Lupino, where she's in the house alone and he's like the crazy,
Beware My Lovely.
Beware My Lovely. That's actually based on a play called The Man. And there is Buick Theater did The Man with Audie Murphy in the Robert Ryan role. He's amazing and he's so scary. And that character originally was an older woman. And in it is Thelma Ritter. So it's Thelma Ritter, Audie Murphy, and it is incredible.
Wow. Okay, I gotta find that. That sounds fantastic.
It is incredible.
Anything with Thelma Ritter, is definitely worth watching. That good one. That was Dennis from Champlain, New York, that was asking about that. So thank you for that, Dennis. That was a good one. Is it me now? Yes.
Yes, you now. Number 6.
James in Atlanta. I recently watched Dixie Ray, Hollywood Star, 1982, also known as It's Called Murder, Baby, in its R-rated cut. Have you seen it, and do you know any other adult films from the golden age that pay homage to film noir? That's pretty funny. I like how James says, I saw it in the R-rated cut. Right? That's like, I only read it for the articles. I'm trying to remember if I have any recollection of this movie. I I don't, it's funny. When I wrote my book Grindhouse, The Forbidden World of Adults Only Cinema, um, the book kind of ends well before 1982. Because I don't know if these movies, that this particular film that James is talking about was ever, I don't know. I know it was shot on film, obviously, but I don't know if it was like playing in theaters. Because my book, I guess 82, yeah, there were still like adult movie theaters in 82. Of course there were. So that must have had a release in adult theaters. I He's got me so curious now. I don't really have much of a recollection of it, but I can't think of any other porno films that have like a noir backdrop to them. If people know, I dare you to fill it in on the Facebook page.
Put it in the Facebook comments.
Put it in the Facebook comments. But I cannot remember who would have been in that. I mean, my knowledge of adult film stars at that time is better than most because of writing that book. But if it wasn't like I don't know, Seika or somebody like that, I don't know who the star would have been. So, okay, I guess we know everybody's going to go looking for that one now because I'm assuming that it's like a detective story pastiche or something. That's what I would imagine.
Yes. Okay. Could you explain the difference between the phrases programmer and B movies as they relate to quickly made low budget movies? And as you answer that, I need to go off screen for a minute because there's an upcoming question where someone asked for a book recommendation, and I have the book, but I can't remember.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'll cover you on this one.
Please cover me.
Oh, and this is Doug. Doug, we know Doug from Silver Spring, Maryland.
Silver Spring.
Yep, I always ask good questions. Well, my understanding of this, and it's a more complex issue than it should be, quite honestly. But I have used the terms because, as people have heard me say on this program many times previously, I do not like the use of B movies as a pejorative expression, and people say, "Oh, it's just a B movie" or something like that, as though they're inferior. They're obviously B movies were of shorter duration, made on a shorter budget, and they were always genre pictures, and they were used to fill out what was considered in America to be an acceptable night's. You're welcome. An acceptable night's entertainment in the movie theater, which would have been, at the very least, cartoons and newsreels and a B picture and an A picture. If not some live shenanigans thrown into the thing, dish giveaways and all that kind of stuff. And but B movies, as I have always thought about this, B movies were made at B units at studios, right? At major studios. There was their A pictures and then a B unit, which was comprised entirely of people, executives and directors and everybody, and they were in the B unit. Programmers were made by the Poverty Row Studios, and they were all B movies, but we make programmers to fill out the program. I have heard some people say that, they feel that programmers were also like the travel logs, the passing parade and all this kind of stuff that you could see as part of like what TCM does now, like but between movies, when the movie ends 10 minutes before the hour, we'll program something to fill those 10 minutes, and the stuff that was made to fill that space some people consider those programmers. Like that's part of the night's programming. But honestly, I've always thought of programmers as just not totally interchangeable with B movies, because in my mind, B movies were made at major studios, programmers were made because it's the only thing that Poverty Row Studios made, really. They never turned out an A picture. So that's my understanding of it. I'm if somebody wants to correct me and say no, there was an actual definition and this is what it was, fine. I'm happy to learn that, but that's always been my take on it.
Yeah, because I always think of programmers as being stuff. I don't know. See, I always think of that as stuff like the Saint series and the Whistler and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, good point. Like serials.
Yeah.
Which is different from being a B movie, because it's a whole series of movies. The Falcon and the Saint, and and obviously there were all kinds of westerns. There were more Western programmers than anything else, really. And then there were jungle movies and all this kind of weird, but they were always genre pictures. You would not see like a B version of Gentleman's Agreement.
Right.
that just wasn't going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Not to say that these films couldn't have interesting subject matter. Coming up soon on Noir Alley, I'm showing this film called Violence, which is not a good movie, but it's so fascinating to see them. This is a movie that deals with fascists using disgruntled working men and returning veterans to create like a fascist army in the United States to get a guy for the sole purpose of getting a guy elected to office.
That right? Couldn't happen for Eddie.
Couldn't possibly happen today, and that's the whole reason I chose to show it. It was just like, can you believe this? This is so timely right now. And here it's a cornball movie from 1947, but it just hits the nail right on the head, and it is a programmer. That movie is definitely a programmer. All right, let's move on. I think, who's reading this one?
You're actually reading it.
Okay. This is Craig from Carlsbad and elsewhere, he says. Okay, and this is a pretty long one, but he put some thought into this. I'm just going to read this. His question is in regards to the wonderful Ida Lupino, one of my favorite actresses. She's one of my favorite actresses too, but that's Craig saying that. She came to my attention when I was a middle teenager. My dad took me to an old art house type theater in Los Angeles, and we watched The Seawolf. Good job, Dad. As a side note, in my opinion, by far the best adaptation of any Jack London story. Oh, that's what he's saying about The Seawolf. Yes. Yeah. A few months later, I saw her in They Drive by Night. I found myself totally drawn to and focused on her in every scene she had. Well, that's kind of how that was devised. She's the red hot focal point of that movie. She conveyed such genuine emotion in her large and expressive eyes, and her crack up on the stand is priceless. It's great. Whether it was anger or tenderness, it really came through on camera. Her unusually seductive voice also helped. I love when her voice would break on, when it would have that little crack in it. That's fantastic. I did a little research on her and discovered she was a London-born descendant of an Italian acting family that had been in England since the 1700s. True enough. Her father, Stanley Lupino, was a big star in vaudeville in England. Even today, I don't believe she gets enough credit for her acting and directing abilities. Well, that has certainly changed. I could say that 20 years ago, nobody remembered Ida Lupino as a director. Anyway, I'd like to know if you know of any biographies or other books you could recommend regarding Miss Lupino. Lastly, Eddie and Ann, how do you rate her in her film noir roles as an actress in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, I went to look for this. So this is Ida Lupino biography by William Donati. So I enjoyed this. I thought this was a good biography. There's also a really good monograph from the BFI
Yes.
on the Bigamist. Is it the Bigamist that they did their monograph on?
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
I
the
think so.
Bigamist.
I think there's a few that they might.
Yeah, they
Well, um, that book, Donati's book, is good. I certainly used it when I wrote about her somewhat, as extensively as I wrote about anybody else in my Dark City book. In fact, I think Ida Lupino was the only person that I wrote about twice in Dark City, because I wrote about her as an actress, and then later in the book I wrote about her as a director. And I mean, in a nutshell, Craig, I have gone on record as saying that I believe that Ida Lupino was the most talented woman in the history of Hollywood, because she did everything. She was a tremendous actor, just tremendous actor, who could do anything. And I think she just wore out because it stopped being a challenge for her, right? Because and it was interesting that she never, for whatever reason, she never got the roles that Betty Davis got or Olivia de Havilland got. And she spent a lot of time at Warner Brothers in their shadow,
yeah.
and then still made great movies, like They Drive by Night and The Hard Way and The Man I Love.
On Dangerous
But
Ground.
well, that was an RKO.
That was
It
RKO.
was after The Man I Love
Yeah.
that was like in Deep Valley. Um, but Deep Valley, I think, was a Fox picture, and I honestly can't remember. No, Deep Valley is a Warner's picture. But then she did Roadhouse at Fox, and that was because Charlie Feldman, who was the super agent in Hollywood, loved Ida Lupino and just didn't think she was. He knew exactly what was happening. That as an actress, she was kind of stuck at Warner Brothers because she couldn't break out. So
Yeah.
he designed Roadhouse for her to give her the glam treatment and all that stuff. But within a couple of years, she was kind of done acting. She just it didn't matter to her because she wanted to write, she wanted to direct, she wanted to produce. Fantastic. And went on to do it. I'm it's weird to think that prior to the noir, whatever you want to call it, the noir revival or whatever, um, she was probably most known for directing, what the hell is the movie, the Haley Mills picture, the
Oh,
trouble, the
we're trouble
trouble,
fall angels.
the trouble with angels,
Trouble with angels.
the trouble with angels, right? I mean, that was the picture she was most known for
Yeah.
as a director.
Yeah.
Uh, and of course, she directed all kinds of television. And another great role that people forget about is she was Steve McQueen's mom in Junior Bonner, directed by Sam Peckinpah, which is like the forgotten Sam Peckinpah movie because it's not a violent Western. I mean, it's a rodeo picture, but Steve McQueen is great in it, and she's fantastic in it. And it's one of Peckinpah's better movies, I think. And it's a quiet movie as opposed to Pat Garrett and the Wild Bunch and all that stuff. So anyway, I'm so
And
there.
she was on 2 episodes of Columbo.
Okay, there you go, Ann. Thank you. Tell me about the Lupino Columbos now.
Oh, she is in one with Roddy McDowall. Well, Roddy McDowall is the killer, and she is his aunt. And Short Fuse, which is sort of notorious for Roddy McDowall's extremely tight trousers, which allow you to see his gift.
Pays to advertise, as they say.
Advertise. And then more importantly, she is in the one with Johnny Cash.
Oh.
And she plays Johnny Cash's controlling wife. who he murders. So she gets murdered by
Wow.
Johnny Cash. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is one of the best episodes of Columbo. Johnny Cash is amazing in it. It's great.
Okay. And how's it going with you're doing some Columbo
Yes,
Fest
we're
thing?
doing some
Yes.
Columbo Fest. Yeah, for people that don't know, Doug Grieve and I have a group called Just One More Thing, the Columbo Experience on Facebook. And what we do is we get together on Zoom and we sort of talk before, and then we all go to chat function only, watch the episode together, and then after the episode, talk about the episode. It's been really fun. So
That's
we do it on
fantastic.
Sunday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And you just have to join the Facebook group, and that's where we put up the schedule and the link to join and stuff.
And so everybody who does this has like the Columbo collection or something that
the Columbo collection, or we finally found out the Internet Archive has them commercial free. So I don't know how long they'll be up there because I'm not really sure about whether or not they should actually be up there. But anyway, because it is available for streaming different places, but a lot of times it has ads. So, but there is a really beautiful Columbo set on Blu-ray that came out recently. It looks fantastic, which is well worth the price. So we're just having a really good time. And if you don't want to watch along with us, the page is still fun because we post stuff. People post cool stuff up there.
Well, you're gonna have to watch that episode. One of those Lupino episodes you're gonna have to watch pretty soon.
Yeah, Short Fuse I think is in a couple more because it's in the first season. We're making our way.
You're going through it in chronological.
Oh yeah, we started with the pilot. So we did the original TV movie, the second one, which was also a TV movie, and then we're more in the first season now. So we're doing every single episode.
Right on.
Fantastic.
Okay, well, I may go look for that Johnny Cash Ida Lupino episode
Swan
tonight.
Song.
I may Swan Song. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, your turn.
Okay, Charlotte moved my cursor, so I have to get down to where we actually are again.
You're at number 9.
We're at number 9. Point Blank, I believe to be the greatest.
Sorry, that was my. Just to show you that I remember. That's how old I am. I remember that moment from the White Album. Okay, go on.
Point Blank, I believe to be the greatest film noir shot in color. The emphasis on the use of color throughout the film. The yellow paint was used on things like telescope as well as columns in a parking lot. Is there a better noir color film, Eddie? Lee Marvin had script approval and approval of casting. Lee deferred this to his director, John Borman. How rare was that? This great film cost $2 million to make.
That's our buddy Alan in San Anselmo, California. I will say this: Point Blank is the most strategic use of color in any film. Noir or not, maybe. Certainly up to that point, because the film goes through color phases. It's all ambers and stuff. It's blues, I think, at the beginning, and then it goes through these different things where everything is coordinated with the color palette, which is pretty cool, And Angie Dickinson in all those mod 60s outfits that are all completely color coordinated. But I mean, if you want to talk about color films, I mean, I think that as a noir, I mean, Leave Her to Heaven is a fantastic color film. Niagara is a great color noir film. If you can see a version of Slightly Scarlet, photographed by John Alton, if you can see the color in that not faded, it's pretty fantastic. It's not anywhere near as good as those other films. But anyway, Lee Marvin and John Borman had worked together previously. They did Hell in the Pacific together, and that's where Marvin really took a shine to Borman as a director, and that's why he specifically wanted him for Point Blank and did everything he could to get him. And I have heard great stories about Lee Marvin making this film, but that's another time. But yeah, he was a huge fan of John Borman, and Borman did a great job with that movie. Oh, damn. Okay. I presume do you like that film, man?
Oh, I love that film.
Really fun?
Yeah, yeah, I love John Borman. He's a great filmmaker. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great film. I really love that film. And I remember I can't remember where someone making the joke about that, and I really do like it when Angie Dickinson is just like beating the crap out of Lee Marvin. And
And it
so
has absolutely no effect at all. She just wears herself out, pounding on him until she finally collapses, and he doesn't flinch through the whole thing.
Yeah,
pretty great.
Yeah, but someone said that was like vengeance for her, since you know, for the killers.
For the killers. Yeah, exactly. Where she gets dangled out the window. Yeah.
And one more time, I just have to say how great Ronald Reagan is in The Killers. He's so great in that movie. Just the friggin' look he gives her when she sends him up.
He is very effective in that film, but I'm going to tell you a funny story now that Clu Gulager told me about. Lee Marvin did not like Ronald Reagan at all.
Yeah.
At all. And when they had their scene together in the office, where the two of them come in to confront him in his office, Marvin told Clu, it's like, watch this. I'm just going to totally screw this guy up. Because Reagan just, at that point, I mean, he was well cast in the film, but he was a clock puncher. Right, this is the last movie he made, right? And he was far more interested in his political career at that point than he was in this movie. So it was just like a crappy movie. I just want to get it done. I want to get the paycheck. I'm out of here. And so Marvin kept improvising his lines in that scene so that Reagan, who didn't pay attention, he could not pay attention. He just waited for the last word that was his cue to speak.
Yeah.
And so Marvin intentionally never ended a sentence with that word, so that Reagan would just be standing there like not knowing what to do. Right? Which is so bad, because, you know, an actor, you're actually supposed to be in the scene and like playing it with the other actor.
Yeah.
And they must have done this 5 or 6 times until like Don Siegel said, I know what you're doing, and just, you know, can we just get it over with? But Marvin was just obsessed with like bugging the hell out of Ronald Reagan. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think Reagan did the film just as a favor to someone, actually.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. I mean, he is good in it. But wow, no love lost between him and Lee Marvin. Okay.
Okay, last one.
This is Bob, our friend, writes at the Saturday Evening Post and has contributed to the Bob Sassioni, I believe his name is. He has contributed to the Noir City magazine. He wrote a great story on the movie Cover Up for the magazine, and he's offering us a quick round of neo-noir or not. Okay, so here I'm going to read the first one, and you tell me whether you think or not, and then you read the second one. We'll go like that. Okay. Drive, with Ryan Gosling.
I would consider that Neo-Michael Mann.
Wow, you just ticked off Nicholas Winding Refn terribly by saying
that. If he's watching this, I would like to say once again that Bleeder is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Okay, very good. Very good. Refn makes an appearance in the next Noir City magazine. Danilo Castro includes a thing about the Neon Demon. Have you seen the Neon Demon?
No, but I want to.
It's pretty crazy. Anyway, Drive. Yes, I agree that is. Yeah, it's very much a neo-noir. I really like parts of it, and then I have real misgivings about other parts of it, which in general is kind of how I feel about Refn's movies. Yeah. I mean, they're always very compelling, and he's a provocateur, and so he usually does two or three things in a movie that I'm like, what the, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
you can't be
Yeah.
serious, you know?
I mean,
But that doesn't bother me that much.
yeah, like I said, for me, like I also really love Pusher too, because Mickelson's performance is just, it is almost painful to
Yeah.
watch that film. It's really great.
Okay, so we agree on that.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Payback.
Speaking of Point Blank,
That's why these two questions are together.
there you go. Yeah. You know, I've seen it. I've seen it. All I could think about, I'm sorry to say, Brian Helgeland, who you know made that film, was, you know, it's not Point Blank, and I it just, yeah, it's obviously it's a neo-noir film, but it didn't stick with me. Let's just put it that way, you know. And yeah, I'm not thrilled about that movie. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater, and I believe like it was one of those things where like at one point I realized, oh wait a minute, this is like the same story.
This is Point Blank. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, except it's done in a very comedic, light way. You know what I mean? I mean,
It's a lighter version. Yeah.
It's like a fun action film, but it's not like Point Blank. Yeah.
There you go. It's an action film, whereas I don't think you would describe Point Blank necessarily as an action film. I'd almost call Point Blank an art film. It's, you know,
close to being an art
it's like an art action film. Okay.
Crime drama more than action film.
Yeah. Tequila Sunrise, another Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah, definitely a neo-noir, I think.
Well, without question. And it was clearly Robert Towne screenplay, and he clearly wrote it. Well, there's a lot you can say about Tequila Sunrise. I mean, in some ways, I saw it again when Ben Mankiewicz and I did a whole series of neo-noir films on TCM. And Tequila Sunrise was included because Ben really loves it. And I don't. But I don't dislike it necessarily. But it is interesting to know that it was written by Robert Towne to be the classic Hollywood crime story that he felt he didn't get when they made Chinatown. Because Polanski kind of took over Chinatown and made it more his movie than Towne's script. So he wrote Tequila Sunrise, and it's so interesting, the backstory of the film. Like, did you know that Pat Riley, the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers at that time, was the inspiration for the character that Kurt Russell played, and Robert Towne actually wanted Pat Riley to play the part in the movie.
No, I did not know that.
With the slick back hair and the whole thing and the suits and the whole bit. The whole thing was modeled on Pat Riley because Robert Towne was a huge Lakers fan and like would sit courtside with Jack Nicholson at all the games and all that stuff. So that was pretty weird. But that movie is...
Sorry, doesn't she wind up with Mel Gibson instead of Kurt Russell in that?
Something, yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think that was one of the things where I was kind of going, really?
Well, it was, I mean, it's a classic. Tequila Sunrise has a classic, you know, 40s crime film premise. I mean, it's as a cop pursuing his old buddy who's a drug dealer, you know, and it's just like Cry of the City or something with Victor Mature and Richard Conte, only now it's Kurt Russell and Mel Gibson. But it is such a freaking 80s movie. Oh my God. Watching that again, the soundtrack and the clothes and, you know, Michelle Pfeiffer at her most Michelle Pfeiffer-ish, you know, and Mel Gibson wearing these like surfer boy sweaters and stuff. And holy cow, that movie is... JT Walsh is in it, and he's really, really good as always. And Raul Julia has a fantastic supporting role in the film. He's like the big drug dealer, you know.
Yeah.
It's just goofy, I mean, it's so out of time. That's one of those things where like, yeah, it's a neo-noir, but it so wants to be a movie from the 40s that everything about the way it's constructed and played is like 30 years behind the times, which is kind of endearing, but it's light. It's a light film. It's not Chinatown. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way. Okay. And lastly,
Hard Eight.
Hard Eight.
Yeah. It's been a while since I saw this one. I mean, it just felt so much like, I remember just really feeling like an indie film, so it didn't feel that neo-noir to me, because it just felt it felt more like a quirky indie film to me than really a neo-noir. Even I guess it is. I mean,
I can sit well. I know exactly what you're saying, and that's a perfect way to describe it. Because, well, I will tell you this: the first time I met Paul Thomas Anderson, that's his film, he made this movie. We were at the TCM festival, and everybody was kind of joking around, like, you know, we'll have you on the network and you can show some of your movies. And he kind of laughed and said, well, I guess that leaves Eddie out because I don't really, and I go, except for Hard Eight. And he goes, well, yeah, you're right. That's my noir film. That's as close to a noir film as he's come. And it's good. It's a good movie.
it is a good movie. Like I said, I don't really think of it as neo-noir, though. I really don't, because to me, it just feels too much like I don't know. It just didn't really feel that noirish to me.
Yeah, but I like Philip Baker Hall's performance in the
He's
film.
amazing in it. It's a good movie. There's none that on it. It's a great film. I just don't think it just.
Yeah, but he seems to me like he's playing a guy who's a throwback to the classic noir era.
Yes, his character is. Yeah,
definitely. So that's kind of why it has a little of that flavor. And of course, he's with John Riley. John C. Riley, who is like the antithesis of that.
Yeah,
in a way, he's such a contemporary, natural kind of actor, and kind of goofy in many ways. Anyway, but I thought they played off each other really, really well in that film. Anyway, so thanks, Bob. That was kind of fun doing the neo-noir stuff. So, okay, so we're done.
we are done. So this is going to air on April 11th, so the Thursday before the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival.
I thought it was airing on April 4th.
No, I'm going to do it on the 11th, because I realized if we do it on the 4th, then our next episode would be in the middle of the festival. So I decided to put it. I realized I needed to put it on the 11th, so that we can do 2 weeks after that and not be in the middle of the TCM festival. So
I want, before we go, I do want to say thanks to all the great people who came out to the festival in LA, who told me that they watch us. It was really, really fun. And those people they're so nice. And you have a lot of fans, Anne, and there are a lot of people who said, where's Anne? Where's Anne? So you got to get out to a noir city one of these days outside of Oakland.
Yep.
We need to do that. And who knows, we always talk about doing one of these things, somehow like live or something. Yeah. Who knows? We'll have to think about it. One more thing to add to the list of innumerable stuff we have to do. But anyway.
Yeah, so I said we'll have 2 episodes in April, and then we don't have any North cities in May, so we should be good on keeping in schedule starting now that we should be back on our schedule again when this
very good
airs, and then we're back on our regular every 2 weeks. So sorry for the delay, guys, but it's just been a little crazy.
I will tell you that when May comes around, there's no Noir City festivals, but I believe I'm doing another gig at the Mob Museum in Las Vegas in May. I don't want to. I know I'm doing something. I don't want to. There was some debate about the date, so I don't want to screw that up. But and I'm also obviously Alan Rohde has his Film Noir Festival in Palm Springs, in May. That's coming up, and I will also be doing, and I'll have the exact date when we reconvene next time. But I'm doing a one-off at the Seattle International Film Festival.
Okay.
Where I will be doing, maybe I shouldn't say this because maybe SIF is supposed to, it's embargoed until SIF can say this, but they do a thing at the festival called Secret Cinema. You must remember that because
Yeah.
you
I used
that's
to live
where
there.
I met you.
I
That's
forgot.
where I met you.
Yeah.
And I will be doing the Secret Cinema screening at the Egyptian Theater in Seattle during the Seattle International Film Festival. And of course, it's the Secret Cinema. So we cannot say what the movie is. But there's a reason for that, right? It's always something that you can't publicly announce what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I will be doing one of those, and anybody up there or anybody who wants to travel to Seattle, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it.
Very cool. Very, very
okay.
Cool. Oh, I bet I know what it is, actually.
We'll discuss it off camera.
We'll discuss it off screen, but I think I know what it is.
Okay.
I'm very jealous. I'll just put it at that.
Okay. Well, I just want to. Anything else, Ann?
No, other than people should donate to the Film Noir Foundation.
Yes. Well, that's a good thing. That's
that
always good to remind people of that. Yes.
Yeah, and if you do watch this on YouTube, if you could, like and share and subscribe, that would help because, it'd be nice to get more people watching this on YouTube that maybe don't really know us from Facebook at all because not everybody's on Facebook. So, you want to share things around, that'd be cool.
Yes, that would be great. Okay, good to see you, Ann. You look fabulous. Charlotte made quite an appearance tonight. And she must have been jealous because of me holding Tizzy last time because you got some Charlotte love tonight. So that was nice.
Yeah, she was ready to be front and center.
Yep, very good. She was ready for her close-up. All right, and I thank everyone for watching and for your diligence and loyalty and your contributions to the foundation. Greatly appreciated.
Very much so. Good night, everybody. Oh, go ahead.
Bye. Nope.
Bye.
See you next time.
See you next time.